This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles, on the Rockstar Radio Network. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money, and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author You and the Book Shepherd on the Rockstar Radio Network. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, top of the authoring day to all of you and publishing day. And one of the challenges that we all of us have, is this thing called time. And time to get things done, and it's overwhelming, and the whole arena of marketing your book and moving it on and using this thing, for some, called social media. So how do you best use it? What should you be using it? When should you be using it? Where should you be using it? And should you be the one who's using it? So we're going to be covering all those items during this hour. And I've got with me, as my special guest, an expert in things called social media, and specifically working with authors in positioning and getting their tweets and postings and everything else out there, as well as how do you gather followers and fans and all those other good things. So Melody Jones is one of the go-to people I go to. She owns social media management services. She's one of those people who can take care of the day-to-day operations, so you really don't have to. It's not only setting up some of the channels for you, but it's getting the right profiles and the right descriptions. And one of the great things about Melody is she's smart, and she's got what I call a quirky sense of humor. And it doesn't mean you're off the wall over the place, but she can see the humor in something and pull it off, and she's able to take words and put them together if she's helping you with actually writing your postings. Melody works with authors and solo entrepreneurs and a lot of small business people in those realms. And her services include social media management on behalf of these clients, as well as she creates workshops and one-on-one coaching. You can find Melody Jones at socialmediamelody.com. Hi, Melody. How are you today?
Hi, Judith. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. And I have to tell you that, for me, who it probably is a head of the board of at least 85% of most people out in social media, I still find it really overwhelming in the time suck that it can take and how to get control of it. So I think that, working with someone like you can ease the pain, I think, of a lot of people, and actually take them into baby steps of here where you go before you say, oh, for heaven's sakes, get out of the way and let me do it. Would that be right?
That's a really good description, yes. Social media can be a big-time suck, and so others have called me social media aspirin because what I do is take the pain away for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is overwhelming. So there's some tricks to keeping it less overwhelming, but the truth is it does take some dedication. I mean, you do have to invest in yourself or in somebody like me to make it work.
And I think that's what they're either one, afraid to do, or they don't really know what it all encompasses. So I think I'll go in the corner and play around. And for all our listeners, I need to say this right up front. If you have a book, which if you're on the show, you either have a book or you are in the process of creating a book, which will lead to more books, I promise you, that you really need to understand that internet marketing, i.e. social media, is the game in town. And it's not a fad, it's the trend. And the internet is all about pushing, marketing, displaying, sharing, telling, advising about your expertise, which is what your book brings into play. So if you're still on the sidelines, get into the game because you're going to get left behind here. All right. And the other thing is, I want to say this, Melody, very important, that, okay, so you didn't get in last year. So you're thinking, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to possibly be able to catch up. The reality is the game keeps changing, and there's some basic rules, but the rules also keep changing, and new players come in, and there's new game components come into play. So even if you haven't done anything last year, well, guess what? Right now, you get to start today, and it's finding which channels to go through. So with that, Melody, what would you, when you're working with someone who is green, really green, where would you start them?
I always start with what I call a discovery session. Mm-hmm. And that means we have a very intense discussion about where they are right now. What have they done? How much do they know? What is their experience? What are their needs? What are their goals? Have they figured out some basics like target audience? And so we have to figure those kinds of things out before we can go forward from there to figure out which platform to get somebody started on. So that's the first step that I do with clients.
All right. So before you call someone by Melody, I'm just going to tell everyone it's a good idea to know who your target audience is. Because that's
so much so, absolutely.
You should be, as the book shepherd here, that not only do you know who your target is, who is that ideal reader sitting across the table that you can look up and see, I'm writing for Sue, or I'm writing for Brendan, or I'm writing for who. You know exactly who that person is. And you need to be able to say very succinctly when you talk to someone like Melody, or for me, what is your book about? Don't do it in 5 minutes. You get 15 seconds. Key point, and if it's nonfiction, what's the benefit you bring to the reader when they get your book? Those are musts. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm jumping on your territory here, because that makes Melody's work so much easier, because she knows who to target, one, and two, she knows she's already going to be kind of journeying through her mind how she would create tweets, how she would do a variety of things to continue to hook and expand your audience. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Certain people gather on certain social media platforms. While everybody thinks Facebook is the place to go, it might not be the right one for certain authors. It just depends on your target audience and your goals and your expertise.
So there you go. You may be going down the wrong path and don't even know it.
Exactly.
All right. So you do your discovery session. Okay, yes. And you've had your come to book meeting, and now and you've got a pretty good inkling of what your new client is. What do you do next?
The next thing we do is we review some of the programs I have set up and what it is I can offer and do for them, but we individualize it and to that person. So I do have some very basic programs that I discuss with them, and I will manage for them 2 platforms, 3 platforms, or 4 platforms. So we will identify right off the bat which ones would be the best ones to start with.
Okay. When you say platforms, Melody, you mean is it Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or Pinterest or fill in the blank?
Exactly. So the platforms I offer, exactly. I work with the major ones. That's what we have to start with in this business. And so those continue to be Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and I'm starting to get more demand for Google+. So those are the top ones I work with. Mm-hmm. And so in my very basic program, I call it the Get Moving Now program. If a client has done very little with social media, we're going to start there. And that's going to be 2 platforms. Most of the time, the platforms we start with are Facebook and Twitter. Though Facebook is certainly a challenge to work with, it's still a big platform on the block. And so most of them meaning most of my clients are at least somewhat familiar with that. So those are generally the 2 we start with. But if this is a very specialized client, that might not be what I recommend. Occasionally we start with Twitter and LinkedIn, for example, or we may go straight to Google+. So it just depends. Mm-hmm.
Well, certainly Google Plus is growing like leaps and bounds right now. It took a little while to get off the ground, but she's growing.
I agree with you. It's actually very powerful. I think there's this idea out there amongst authors that Google Place that nobody goes to, or Google Plus, that nobody goes to Google Plus, and that's just not true. It's a gathering of experts. It's a gathering of people who are very serious about what it is they're interested in. And the thing to remember there is that Google Plus has the power of Google behind it, and so it's very powerful. And they integrate all the tools they already offer, like Google Docs, which is now called Google Drive. And they have these other fantastic things you can do called Hangouts, and there's communities you can join. So I really agree with you that this is the place we need to be as authors, and it's the place that we need to connect with others in our expertise and in our field, and you can also connect with other authors too. So it's a great platform to get into.
Which makes a huge difference in the process as you literally go through all of this. At least for me, when I'm keeping track of all of these things.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're into Google Docs, no longer Google Docs, it's Google Drive, right?
Correct. They just changed it. Yes, just to increase the confusion, I guess. But yes, if it's Google Drive, but it still has all the same functionality as Google Docs did.
Uh-huh. And
that's one of the tools I use. I think we've discussed that. I love it because what I do for clients and what I encourage them to do for themselves is create a planning calendar. It's really the only way to get a handle on what you're doing out there. It would be so easy to repeat yourself too often or not address everything that you can address in your social media. And so I set up a spreadsheet on Google Drive, and I invite the author in, and what I do is look ahead 2 or 3 days, sometimes as far as a week if I can, and I plan what we're going to talk about on which platform. And it's right there. I put the actual post there. I put the link to it. And then it's just a matter of scheduling that using Hootsuite most often. So it's a great tool.
It is a great tool. And of course, sometimes we need to say this for Google Plus people, that most people don't post on their back pages, and they post just strictly on their profile in Google Plus. And so stay in that game, which means you can't use Hootsuite.
Yes, I know it. I wish I know it. Darn it. I wish they would add that in there. That's a sort of a frustrating piece, because I actually love Hootsuite. I think it's great, has a great functionality, but there is that limit.
Yeah, so you have to really come in and bring it into there and do that. All right, we're going to be right back. Melody Jones is my guest, and we are talking about social media management, how to maximize it just for you. I'm Judith Briles. It's your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Is there a book in you or another? Author U will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. Author U brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through Author U's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, Author U is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join Author U today through its website at authoru.org. Follow Author U on Twitter at AuthorU and on Facebook at Author U, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. Author U, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
Do you sell stuff? Do you want to sell books? Lots of them? If yes, you must take credit cards, the most widely used form of payment today. The Free Terminal has created a special program for your guide to book publishing listeners. No contract. All equipment is free. Extremely low rates and no termination fees ever. Contact Alan Dean at alan@thefreeterminal.com or call him at 303-668-6828. The Free Terminal has handled all credit card transactions for both Author You and Judith for over a year. Don't wait another day. Contact Alan at thefreeterminal.com or call 303-668-6828 and tell him you want the no contract Author You deal.
Every picture tells a story. And it's a truism that people do judge a book by its cover. Nick Sellinger and NZ Graphics have been in the business of producing superior graphic cover design and interior layout for self-published authors, independent and traditional publishers for years. He has developed a reputation for excellent work, fast turnarounds, and best of all, affordable pricing. NZ Graphics also produces ebooks and book marketing materials such as posters, sell sheets, postcards, bookmarks, business cards, logos, and more. Books designed for his clients have won multiple book awards, including Best Book Award by U.S. Book News, multiple Evie Awards from the Colorado Independent Publishers Association, Indie Book Awards, the San Francisco Book Festival Award, and Freedom Medal Award from Valley Forge. Visit www.nzgraphics.com or call 303-985-4174 for more details about making your book the success it should be. Mention that you are an FOJ, friend of Judith's, and that you heard about NZ Graphics on your guide to book publishing.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask on the Rockstar Radio Network. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
With me on your guide to book publishing today is Melody Jones, and she is the brains behind socialmediamelody.com. And she manages a lot of programs for authors and sometimes non-authors. And we were just talking about, before we went into the break, about the planning calendar she uses. And I told her that I thought it would be a good idea if we probed into that a little bit more, because it may be something that you could put together on your own. And there's certainly a benefit to it. So, Melody, let's come back to that.
Okay, what I would say to start with is don't overthink it. Keep it simple. The way I do it is I create a calendar based on the month. So there's a way to plug in the days and the dates, and you create it in what's normally would be Excel. That's where I create mine, and so you can just create this graph on there. And so the columns are the days of the month and the dates, and the rows, which will be on your left side there, are your specific platforms that you're working with. And so on mine, I'll have Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Google Plus, and LinkedIn. And what I'll do is do some content curation, which is to go out and find information that relates to my client's expertise, as well as plugging in information from their own books, websites, blogs, etc. And so what you do is you actually type it in as you would for that particular platform, and you include a link right there. And then it's just a matter of cutting and pasting, copying really, and pasting into your chosen social media platform. So the trick is then you have to know your platforms. So with Twitter, as we all know, it's only 140 characters that we can use. And I know you and I have learned through experience that you don't want to use all 140 characters. And the reason you don't want to do that is you want people to retweet your stuff. So you've got to give them room to do that. So as you're thinking about and planning your tweet, you've got to keep those kinds of things in mind. And so anything you put on there into your calendar has to relate to the limitations of the platform.
Let me give a Twitter tip right here for
absolutely.
anybody who's doing this. And I don't know if you're doing it, but I'm going to encourage you to do it right now. One of the big challenges is for people to get more followers with Twitter. And one of the single best ways, and also clout recognition. And one of the single best ways is just to insert 2 words in every tweet. And especially if you think it's really relevant and important and you want to keep it rolling and the message out. And sometimes we have situations where we think, oh, it's so logical, people will spread it and pass the word and retweet it. No, they don't. You have to ask them. So where we have 140 characters for Twitter, and Melanie and I both stand on our soapboxes, don't use more than 120 if you can to allow for retweeting. I'm going to tell you now, scale it back to 110 because this is what I want you to put in. After you put your buzzy, sharpie little message and your link with it, just add the words, please retweet, and then post it. Because people going, oh, God, yeah, maybe I should. All right.
And you know what? Save yourself some characters and say PLSRT. See what I mean? Please retweet. People
actually, you can. I'm going to suggest you can do that if you're really out of place, but the stats show that if you spell it out, your retweeting is higher.
Well, and then there's that. Yep, it's a judgment call for sure.
The retweet. The retweet is almost triple if you spell it out.
Amazing.
Who would know? Who would know? Okay, so, so tweeting is really important, and so she's critical. Don't use all your characters if you want to keep spreading the word and have people buzzing and talking about you. And if you're going to your website or going to whatever, because remember, Twitter is about being a resource, about giving information and not directing, and it's not so much about you. It's about you as the expert and a proponent of information. It's not about you beating on your chest saying, buy me, buy me, buy me. Get that? Yeah.
I agree. I agree completely, and I'm going to use this moment to insert another opinion, and that is that all authors really need to have a blog that they keep up consistently, because this is a way to then establish your expertise on an ongoing basis. You rank better in Google, but it also gives me, the social media manager, something to work with. And this way, we're not really beating our chest exactly saying, buy our book. But what we are doing is saying, look at this piece of information you need to know on my subject. So, and we're sending our fans back to our website without really being overly promotional.
Exactly. For example, I put up this week my blog on AuthorU.org this week was about literary agent. Do you want a literary agent? Here are 5 literary agents that want new authors and new books. Hell, if I was desperate for a literary agent, let me tell you, I'd get my tush over to that blog and get those names and those websites and go.
You bet. And then you hope your fan, who is now over on your fantastic website, is interested in looking at what else you have on there. And so you're keeping their interest. And then they realize you really know what you're talking about. You have an expertise to share. And so this is very valuable. They must do it.
Yeah, that is the way it works. And so information, all right, so that's Twitter on that and going through. So what I'm hearing you say, Melody, is one, if you got the book, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to read it to find key components so I can get into your voice and your head so I understand what this is about. Is that correct?
That is correct. Thank you for bringing that up. One of my challenges, if you will, and also something I think is so fun is, especially when I'm working with authors, I must take time. I take about 2 weeks once I start on a contract with a client. I take 2 weeks to read their book, study their website, their blog, look into their industry, and as time goes on, I get pretty good at talking in their voice and talking like they would talk. And I had one client who I posted something for her on her behalf on Facebook, and she wrote to me and she said, that's too whimsical. That's not how I talk, which I appreciated. It's a partnership. If they see something that isn't quite how they might say something, they need to tell me. And so I was able to refine how I talk on her behalf. So it's very important to be able to do that as a manager.
Yes, but I think that you brought up something critically important, is that how important it is that you are woven as a partnership, joined at the hip, literally, and that you can be able to merge in. So whether you've got all these tweets, Facebook postings, Google Plus, fill in the blank, all that's taken care of, and you're deciding to go to Italy for 10 days, that you've got someone there that even though you've planned out those 10 days so you can be on vacation, and which, by the way, you never tell people you are when you're away. That's what you tell them when you come back. You had a lovely time. Otherwise, you may find the moving van has been at your house and emptying it because you shared the information you were gone for 10 days.
Exactly.
And it does happen, by the way.
It does.
It does. And the other side of it is, because Melody is scanning the news feeds for information that is related to your topic, your book, your genre, fill in the blank, she may find something really juicy that needs to get out. But, you're on the beach drinking Coronas. So you're not seeing, but she is, and she can put it out and sounds like you. And it's seamless. So I think maybe that's the right word, Melody, that someone like you needs to create a seamless exposure and communication with your followers.
I agree with that. And I have been able to accomplish that because I myself do take an occasional vacation. And so, but can you believe it? And so I really utilize the automation tools as much as possible, and I look very far ahead, and I schedule the entire time I'm back plus a day, so that I have a little breathing room. And I do alert my clients to the fact that I am going to be out of town, but I have, look at your calendar, you're completely scheduled out, and this is where some of the author responsibility comes in. They may have to get into their own social media accounts and take a look at what's going on in there while I'm not there, because what I'm not doing is paying attention to the daily stuff. I have the information going out, but they need to get in there and see what's happening. And that's why it's such a partnership. It cannot all be on me or on them. We have to work together. They must participate,
which is critical. Which is so critical in this process. So let me ask you this, because I know we're going to have to overlap. We're coming down to another break here in just about 30 seconds. Okay. But what I wanted to do is to talk about the interaction side, because I'll tell you, this is one of my bugaboos. It's why Facebook makes me cuckoo. That one of the whole drivers of Facebook, and maybe we need to answer this when we come back, Melody. Okay. That the thing about Facebook is it's supposed to be interaction. And I know people who get sucked into Facebook and they can spend a couple hours. I, for one, do not have that. So let's come back and how you do the interaction for them. And we'll discover that. All right, with me is Melody Jones. We're talking social media management. I'm Judith Briles. It's your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Since 1987, Color House Graphics has set the standard for quality book production. Whether you decide to print a small quantity of books or need a large print run, depend on Color House to help you. You'll receive professional help and advice the moment you reach one of our representatives. If you mention hearing about us on your guide to book publishing with Judith Briles, we will provide you a discount on the first order you place. To speak with a project manager, call us toll-free at 800-454-1916 or visit us at www.colorhousegraphics.com.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers, creating beautiful and well-made books. We're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title, enhancing the promotion of your book during infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask on the Rockstar Radio Network. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, it is exciting for me because I'm actually going to publish my 31st book, and on my website, that thebookshepherd.com, you get a sneak preview. Just go to it, scroll down just a little bit, and you will see what's going on with it. It's called Snappy, Sassy, Salty. It's wise words for authors and writers, and it's a whole bunch of clippy little goodies that you're going to see. Goodies, sayings, quotes. I have created over 100 of them for topics dealing with failure, with, literally is all authors bomb it sometimes, as well as in social media, as Melody and I were talking about. It's going to have inspiration for, how 7 o'clock in the morning get your butt in the chair work for you. There is a variety of things on author success, on motivation, on inspiration, on writing techniques that will really sometimes just get you unstuck and moving on. I also want to let everybody know about that Judith Briles Unplugged is popping on September 6th and 7th. You're going to get 2 amazing author days just with me, nobody else. So if you're just starting down the authoring and publishing path, you'll come away with a totally personalized strategy to create and develop your book. If your book is ready to birth, like it's in the channel, you're going to come away with amazing steps and ahas on how to soar its official launch and develop your next steps. And if you and your book want to create a book launch that rocks and stellars and gets attention and yap will get you on Amazon #1, you want to be here. If you want to make serious money, I'm going to show you the business plan of how to do it. If you want to do crowdfunding, I'm going to show you how to create your own personalized campaign, whether it's Kickstarter or PubSlush or Indiegogo, familiar with all of those to roll you forward. So, and then lastly, you're going to do your game plan, and whether it's for your current book or your next book or for your marketing strategy, I'm going to walk you out of there with, you will be so frickin' focused, you will know exactly who you are and what your book's about and who it's for and how to make a business and survive. Do I know about it? Absolutely. I've supported a family for over 30 years with just my words. So come to Judith Briles Unplugged. You'll get all the information if you go to thebookshepherd.com. Just click on the logo that says Judith Briles Unplugged. It's at the top left. And sign up. There is a special going on, 2 whole days. Location is Denver. It's a deal. All right. We're back with Miss Melody Jones, socialmediamelody.com. We're talking about creating that planning calendar that will save your sanity in your life when it comes to social media and marketing. And we're talking about which platforms might be best for you. So, Melody, why don't we continue to dive into that?
Okay. Facebook continues to be a contender out there. And mostly what I hear is a lot of frustration around Facebook. And one of the reasons is it changes all the time. Sometimes the change is obvious. Sometimes they do changes behind the scene and you just sort of find out by default. So there's some challenges with Facebook, but it can work. I work with one author. She's published 50 books, if you can believe it. And she's a pretty popular author. She's in the romance genre. And her Facebook crowd loves her. And so in her case, Facebook really works well. I just put out a very simple post on Facebook where I said, I talked like I'm her. So I'm her posting. It looks like it's her name and I'm doing it for her.
Exactly.
I know it. So, and I said, as you all know, I love to travel. So I'm just curious, where does everybody live? Post below. She had, last I counted, she reached 5,000 people with that one simple post.
Wow!
I couldn't believe
wow.
it. It's the best one I've seen. And look how simple that was. So what I want to say on Facebook is, in that case, you keep it simple and do a call to action. So fill in the blank, what's your favorite something, ask a question, but you want people to talk back with you. That's the key. And you keep it short. For some reason on Facebook, people have an attention span that's a little smaller there, so you've got to get their attention immediately. And so that's a trick you can use. And just be aware that on Facebook, only about, last I knew, and correct me if you know something new on this, but about 16% of the fans on a Facebook page see your posts at any given time.
Which to me is crazy. I don't
understand it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't get it. If you sign up and you want to follow this person, why can't you have full exposure?
That's exactly right. And so we just have to, at this time, continue to work with Facebook because it still is a big kid on the block. But let me just say, Google Plus has an advantage in that realm, in that you can create a page there too for yourself. So you can create an author page on Google Plus, and you should do so. And everybody who decides to follow that page, everybody sees everything you put out. Google does not hide anything you post on there. Secondly, on Google Plus, you can write a much longer post, and in fact, that's encouraged. You can put pretty much, if you wanted to, a full blog post on Google Plus, and it doesn't penalize you for doing so. So this is the way that you've got to know your platform. So when you're working your planning calendar, that's what you have to think about. What does that platform need to work the best for me? And you schedule it that way.
Yeah, and Melody, I'm not seeing any censorship. I think that's actually the right word to use.
That's a good word, yeah.
I'm not seeing any censorship on Google Plus. That whatever you post on that profile page stays put, and then anybody can go to it. What if you're going to create the offshoot pages for? And also, really, Melody said this. Make sure you fill out the author page on Google Plus. Make sure you get all that information up there. That when you, and I've actually been revealing, because my quotes that I have coming out in the book, like one of my new ones, I love this one, and it's this one. It says, now this is me speaking in all these quotes. I'm not quoting other people. This is me speaking. So here's one of my quotes. I love books more than sharks love blood. And that
sounds so like you, Judith.
It is. And so I have, and another one is, we have an addiction in our household. It's called books. I mean, I am addicted to books. I am totally, not a hoarder, because I'm selective of my books. And I do go through, when I go through stages, like when I was so out speaking on conflict resolution and writing books on conflict for healthcare, I had more books dealing with leadership and teams and conflict and communication than Hogan had goats. Okay. I don't do that anymore. So I donated that library. I kept a few of the select books that I wanted, but I donated 95% of that library.
I think that's a great idea. I do that myself. I go through stages too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and of course my husband had a cardiac arrest when he saw all these books going. He says, "But you loved these books." I said, "I know I do, but there's someone else who needs them now." So you need to look at that. On these quotes as you put up, and I'm going to put up the cover that we just nailed down yesterday, so we can see that. But those kind of things is Facebook brings it in play. I know Google Plus, there it'll stay put there, and most people are really posting on their profile pages. If you're going to create a backup page, again, as in all cases of social media, you got to drive people there. If you want to have your discussions going on in your dialogues or maybe a specific circle, and of course we didn't get into the circles, Melody, of what Google is, where you start put your people in categories. Like I have 2 circles that are specifically publishing on mine. I've got one for family. I've got a circle for all things publishing. I've got a circle for people I just follow, like a special list. I have a circle for all the Author U members.
Exactly.
And so if anyone reaches out to connect with me and I don't really know who they are, and if I see their author, I immediately put them into publishing. I mean, just by default, they go into the publishing circle.
That's exactly right.
All right. So then if you have something that you want to go out just to that group, you just send it out to that group and it gets posted to them. And I get notices all the time from people who are posting, and I can do it very quickly. And decide, and sometimes then I make decide that they don't call it retweeting on Google Plus. You just, you just push the little arrow and share. They call it a share.
Share, that's right. That's right. And circles are a fantastic way to do targeted marketing. That's exactly what you're talking about. One of my clients, it's somebody that you also know, is an expert in homeowners associations, and when we get him on Google Plus, and we're going to seek out Google Plus communities that deal with homeowners associations, and we will create a circle where everybody who deals with that is in that circle. Therefore, anytime that we talk about an issue, that's who we're going to post to. So it's a great way to target.
Yes. Okay. And that's exactly what we're talking about, going on and really building it. So it means, though, there's an infrastructure that comes into play. And so what Melody is talking about is creating the infrastructure, starting with who you are, in that discovery session that runs about a half hour. She gets to know what your book is, so she can get inside your head and understand all those things, and put it together than that. So I think what I like about what you do, Melody, is you're out searching and seeking and looking for new information. So you take some of that load off of the author.
Absolutely, yes, I do. That's the biggest. I take a couple of things off the author, and content curation, like which is seeking out third-party content that relates, is a big, big part of that. And so I just, you keep it simple. You create a client folder on your Internet Explorer or whatever you do, and you plug everything into that via your client. And anytime that you need to look back at a resource, that's what you can do. And you can pull information from all these other websites on an ongoing basis. So if you find one that has some really great information, you can continue to pull information from that and post it on their behalf. The other thing I take off their plate is not only finding these places, but I do all the creation of the posting. So I'm the one getting in there and making sure that it fits Twitter like it should and Facebook like it should, and so forth.
Okay. When we come back, we'll be right back for our final session. This is Judith Briles. We're going to be talking about how to tips for work with your social media manager when we come back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Do you sell stuff? Do you want to sell books? Lots of them? If yes, you must take credit cards, the most widely used form of payment today. The free terminal has created a special program for your guide to book publishing listeners. No contract. All equipment is free. Extremely low rates and no termination fees ever. Contact Alan Dean at alan@thefreeterminal.com or call him at 303-668-6828. The Free Terminal has handled all credit card transactions for both Author You and Judith for over a year. Don't wait another day. Contact Alan at thefreeterminal.com or call 303-668-6828 and tell him you want the no-contract Author You deal.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems, you want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher, or by a publishing service provider, or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today, 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207, or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at MyBookShepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask on the Rockstar Radio Network. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, this session we've been talking about social media management with Melody Jones, who owns Social Media Management Services, and you can find her at www.socialmediamelody.com. And I wanted her to put some, in our final segment here, to talk about some key tips for working with a social media manager. And before she jumps into that, I had one question, and it really dealt with blog post. And Melody did mention earlier that it's really critical to be consistent and getting blogs up because you can pull information. So what do you do? How do you talk about reposting tweets more than once, which is at least repost your tweet 4 times, everybody. Get same tweet and hit all the time zones. Get yourself covered here.
Exactly.
And I will encourage you to go back on the authoru.org website. There is just go in there and do a search on best Twitter posts, because I just in the last couple of weeks I have posted a time frame for what are the best times a day to post on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, LinkedIn, and Pinterest. But I wanted you to talk about, just briefly before you go into the tips on working with a social media manager, how do you take the same blog post and how do you tweak it multiple ways to milk it?
Right, and that is a challenge. That's definitely a challenge. What you have to do is really look at the content very closely. So you can do a general subject. So whatever the general subject is, you can do a pretty generalized tweet on that, and then you dig deep into it. So maybe there's a tip within the blog post that you can also talk about. And if you phrase it differently from the one you put out before, nobody really knows it's going to go to the same blog post. Because it's going to talk about a slightly different part of it. Mm-hmm. And so do it with an eye toward different audience members. Because the same piece of information won't appeal to the same people. So your goal is to appeal to as broad a number of people as you can. So you want to just rephrase as often as possible to the same blog post. If it's evergreen content, even if it's maybe 2 months old, if it's evergreen and it still applies, you can even go back to it. If you would like to, if you've got interest in it. So.
Oh, sure. And also that a lot of people are oh my God, what am I going to write about this week? That goes through. I actually wrote a blog post on that exact thing, and I came up with a blog because I saw a goofy video that was 1.5 or 2 minutes on these kids that put together 10,000 iPhones and made a domino thing out of it. And first of all, my first thought, where in the hell did they get these 10,000 iPhones?
Exactly.
And two, who in the hell has the time to set this sucker up? And then the reality is I was cheering for the creativity of it and the persistence and perseverance of putting this thing together. And the reality is it gave me the creative spark to talk about creativity and where does it come from. Mm-hmm. And in 15 minutes, I had my total blog for the week.
That's exactly right.
You never know where those things are coming from on that. So it's very important to understand and realize that people, what one line may hook with someone else, but if it's rephrased just a little bit differently, like Melody suggested, it may be the hook. And for heaven's sakes, everybody, when you do post a blog, make sure you post throughout the week on all your deals, on all your platforms, that there is a new blog and what it's about. So people can drive to it. All right, Melody, tips.
Okay.
I'm going to hire you. What are you going to tell me the best way to work with you?
I am going to tell you that we work in partnership. It's very important to have that mindset for this to be successful. And so in that light, I will always tell clients, here's my responsibilities and here's what I will do for you. But also you have responsibilities too to make this work. And one of them that I really need is for them to be available by email, and I'll tell you why. I can go in there and I can talk in their voice. I can answer basic questions, but I'll tell you, fans do come up with things I can't answer. I am not the expert. The expert is my client, and so I need them to be available by email and to get back to me very quickly on an answer so that I can post it to their fans. We don't want to leave them waiting. Mm-hmm. So that's number one. And we've already talked about blogging consistently, and I'll just mention that again. It's it's a way for keeping your fans interested, keeping your content fresh. It helps provide social proof that you know what you're talking about, and it helps me because it gives me fresh things to talk about, and then it keeps me interested too. So that's helpful. Anytime clients see links to news items, blog posts, websites, videos, books, anything that relates to their subject matter, I very much appreciate it when they send that to me via email. So now they've discovered something that applies to their expertise, and I can get that out there on their behalf. I always like photos. What authors need to do is humanize who they are. Fans love to see the person behind the name. So if you went on a hike up to Red Rocks and it was a beautiful day, get a photograph of yourself and we'll put it out there. And you'll just say, here was this beautiful day. And so get me photographs on a more often basis. I need more than I sometimes get to make it very interesting. Keep me updated. I will hear sometimes at the very last minute that one of my authors has a speaking engagement, a book signing, whatever it is, and that did not give me enough lead time to really get the word out on their social media. They could have, had they gotten it to me in time, we could have done a much better job with that.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that you might want to add. You said email. I'm on email. If I'm in my office, I'm on my computer all day, and the email's open. But also, my Skype is open. And what I kind of like about Skype is that if you send it to me on Skype, number one, I'm going to see a little box coming up, but also under your name, it's always there. I can see all the links and everything, and I can find stuff very quickly.
That's a really great tip. I think that's a great idea. One of the tricks in working with clients is to find out what works for them. I've not had anybody tell me about the Skype thing, but if somebody told me that was their primary means of communication, I would work with that. That's whatever works for the client, and it's going to make the partnership work.
Exactly.
The other thing that I kind of see as a challenge with clients who are authors is a mindset about social media. They've got to reset their mindset. Mostly what I hear in the beginning is social media is about selling, selling, selling. Buy my book, buy my book, buy my products. No, it isn't. It's about building relationships, having conversations, being authentic, being consistent, and being interesting to your fans. It's all of those things. And within that, then you will sometimes talk about your book or something exciting that's coming up about your book. And if you think your fans are going to forget about you, think again. You just got done being very interesting on Facebook or whatever your platform is for 6 months, and they know there's a new book coming, and they are going to go buy that because you have been very consistently present. And so that's really the value there. The other thing is bring any questions or concerns immediately to my attention. So if you see a tweet that goes out and maybe it's not a tweet, maybe you didn't like that tweet or something happened that's not the message you want, you need to tell me. I mean, this is because this has to work for both of us. And the last one, and this is so silly, but I'm going to say be pleasant. Because you know what I mean, Judith. And it's so silly that I have to say that, but here's the deal. Authors, especially at book launch, as you well know, are very stressed, and they have a feeling of urgency. Let's hurry, hurry, hurry. And so sometimes the pleasant aspect isn't really there. And so I'm just saying, for us to really work well together, we need to have, some pleasant conversation. We need to rein in our we can commiserate on the stress, but this is what's going to get things done and make the partnership work. We've just got to work with each other as well as we can.
Right. And you did mention something very, very important. If you do have any special promotion, for all our listeners, any book launch coming on, anything that is a celebration or something, you certainly want to clue in whoever you're working with very quickly, and you don't do it the day before, although they're pretty responsive. But remember, they're trying to set stuff up at least a week ahead of time. And they do allow for spontaneity, but that when you do celebrations or promos or book launches, it's not something you plan on the day before. That's a kiss of death. It does take planning, so bring them into the loop so they can be really a proactive member of your team.
And let me just add one more thing I just thought of. I have so many times asked my authors to get a picture of themselves at these events, and so often it doesn't happen. But this is just, you must, because visual content on Google Plus and Facebook really counts.
It does, and that's going to be our last line. So we've been talking about social media management. I'm a big believer in doing it, even if you are really Johnny on the spot. You are really, 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 really good. It helps to have another person, another set of eyes, another set of ears to work with you to make you even more better. And that social media is critical to your success. Melody Jones, Social Media Management Services, I'd highly recommend you reach out. Certainly go to her website at socialmediamelody.com and you'll find out lots more. This is Judith Briles. Thank you, Melody.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with you next week on your guide to book publishing.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr.